In the 2014 U.S. Chess Championships, the most exciting thing that could have happened did happen. We move from round robin to playoffs. For the U.S. Championship, a draw between Alexander Lenderman and Varuzhin Akobian opened the door for a three-way tie as defending champion Gata Kamsky won his game to join the party. For the women, Irina Krush and Anna Zatonski could only draw their games. So in the wings, Tatev Abrahamian won her game to catch up. And like the men, the women are now in a three-way tie. Armageddon is upon us in St. Louis. Hello and welcome to the 2014 U.S. Chess Championships and U.S. Women's Chess Championships, now in playoff, in St. Louis, the capital of chess in America. We are right across the street from the World Chess Hall of Fame at the beautiful St. Louis Chess Club, what Garry Kasparov called the nicest chess club in the world. And we have one of the most exciting finales that I've ever witnessed in the U.S. Championship.
Absolutely. Showdown in St. Louis today.
Now we see our just 4 players have showed up so far because Gata Kamsky and Irina Krush have been seeded into the finals due to superior tie breaks. So they're chilling. Meanwhile, we see Abrahamian already here, Lenderman here. It is going to be a real thrilling day here.
And what they're doing for the Armageddon, Jen, is it's 45 minutes for the white player, and the players are bidding on the minutes for the black player, and the black player will have draw odds in the Armageddon matches.
That's right, and this year, unlike previous years, there are no increments, so it is going to be thrilling indeed. Let's take a look and see how it's going down in the U.S. Chess Championship. We've got a three-way tie at the top with Varuzhin Akobian and Alexander Lenderman. They're contesting that Armageddon match for the right to play Gata Kamsky. Coincidentally, he's also the defending champion, but really it was his superior tie breaks which gave him that seeding.
Precisely.
And they're actually going to start in that second match in the final, not with an Armageddon, but rather a 2-game rapid. So we're here for a while, guys. It's going to be fun. Meanwhile, Zatonski and Abrahamian, same situation. Winner gets the right to play Irina Krush in a rapid match. I absolutely can't wait. Yesterday was one of the most exciting days of chess I've ever seen, and I think today might just top it. Maurice Ashley, what do you think?
Indeed, a very exciting day here at the championship. 6 players vying for 2 titles. Incredible situation. The rules, even the rules the players had to study. Well, let's take a look. We have seed number 2 and seed number 3 playing. The winner is going to play seed number 1, who had the superior tie breaks in the head-to-head matchup. The 2-game rapid match will decide the championship. If they're tied, they'll move on to a final Armageddon game to see who wins it all. Well, if you're confused, so were the players. Some of them did not know the rules at all. Yesterday, I had to explain them to Anna Zatonski. What are your thoughts going into tomorrow's matchup? You have to play Tatev first. First of all, with that matchup, you played her you played her 2 years ago for the championships. What do you think about that game?
Okay, I'm still thinking about my previous game, which I just finished. I didn't know I have to play Tatev first, and I thought my Berger is better, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's not a Berger tiebreak. It's head-to-head, and head-to-head have you losing against Irina.
So. And So okay, I need to read how we are playing, which time control and how many games.
Oh, so you don't know the rules of the tiebreak?
No, but a three-way tiebreak I don't know.
Well, the three-way tiebreak has you.
And I forgot last year I didn't play tiebreak, so I'm not sure.
Well, you have to play an Armageddon game against Tatev where you bid.
Armageddon game?
Where you yes.
Right away?
Right away, where you bid to see who gets black, and black has draw odds. So that's the situation before you go and play Irina.
Good. So it's
Imagine being unclear about the rules just several hours before you have to play one of the most important games of your life, followed by one of the most important matches of your life. Well, I'm sure she's clear on it now. She defeated Tatev Abrahamyan in their individual matchup in this tournament, so she should feel confident going into this, the championship round of the playoffs. Incredible situation. We're all excited. It should be one epic day at the championships. Guys?
And let's go upstairs where Executive Director at the St. Louis Chess Club, also an arbiter, Tony Rich, will fill us in on the bids and who gets black and who gets draw odds.
Exactly.
Welcome everyone to the welcome everyone to the playoffs for the 2014 U.S. Championship and 2014 U.S. Women's Championship. I'm Tony Rich, the organizer of the events, and I'm joined here today by 4 out of the 6 players who are tied for first in their respective events. On my left, we have Anna Zatonsky and Tatev Abrahamyan. On my right, Varuzhina Kobian and Alex Lenderman. Moments ago, the players bid the amounts of time with which they were willing to begin their Armageddon game in order to choose their color. Now, an Armageddon game is one in which the player with the black pieces has draw odds. So it's a very important process. Our Women's Championship competitors have bid their times, and the clock times have been set. White, who will be Anna Zatonsky, will have 45 minutes, and black, Tatev Abrahamyan, will have 29 minutes and 45 seconds. In the U.S. Championship section, Varuzhina Kobian has bid 29 minutes and 57 seconds to Alex Lenderman's 33 minutes. Therefore, Var will have the black pieces, and he will have draw odds. Alex will have a full 45 minutes in the white pieces. The games will begin in just a moment, so stand by and enjoy.
All right, so Varuzhina Kobian and Tatev Abrahamyan both getting the black pieces and draw odds. We're going to confirm with you the bids in a minute because, oh, actually, I see them right here. Varuzhina Kobian with 29 minutes and 57 seconds, and Tatev Abrahamyan with 29 minutes and 45 seconds. So very similar winning bids.
Right.
Now, in U.S. Chess Championship history, you might note that the bids have been historically lower. Of course, the system's only been around for a little while, and shout out to Greg Shahade, who helped come up with some of the ideas here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Greg.
Last year, it was actually 19 minutes and 20 minutes, but there was a key difference there. There was a 5-second increment. Today, there will be no increment, and that's why we see these larger bids.
Exactly, a little bit higher, yeah.
But even kind of higher than you would expect, because if you think about it, a 60-move game.
Well, I was thinking that 30 minutes was somehow the right figure, and so this 29:57, 29:45 kind of just is right in. What did our audience think about that? Yesterday we were asked our audience to tell us what they might have bid. Did they come in the majority above 30 or the majority below 30?
I'll check on that, but you can continue to let us know what you think there. Using the hashtag US Chess Champs. Remember, these are rapid games, and there's only 2 of them, so it's going to get pretty hot in the next hour, but we are going to have some time to take your thoughts and questions as well. So we are about to get started. Let's get some thoughts from Maurice on these bids, the winning bids. Do you think they were good bids?
I think they were predictable bids, and it's time for a prediction. I'm going to give mine. I think that this was a very good bid for Akobian. He wants to be with the black pieces. He's very solid. Yesterday I said it, so I'm not going to vary from that now. As much as I love the way Lenderman has played in this competition, I think that with the black pieces, Akobian should be able to hold a draw. I don't expect to see him win the game. It should be a draw on his side. But again, Lenderman has been playing some really good chess. We'll see if he can go for it in this game and win. And on the women's side, you've got to think that Zatonsky is going to pull this off. She has been a fighter throughout the competition, and there is no increment at all. So that 29 minutes is really going to play against Abrahamian. So I'm predicting a win for Zatonski in this game and see her move on. But again, a brilliant blitz player in Tatev Abrahamian with the black pieces. So she seems confident, and they're ready to go. Yasser, what's your guess on this one?
Ah, so you like black. By the way, Anna Zatonski actually bid 45 minutes. We are hitting the moves coming on now. So that means that strategically that's not so wise, because that means that if Tatev had bid like 40,
Right.
she would have just gotten black and draw odds and only 5-minute deficit. So a bit of a strange bid there. But perhaps Anna really liked what she prepared with the white pieces.
Remember, she defeated Tatev in the first game, that their head-to-head matchup with the white pieces. So clearly she wants to have that color again, and the time advantage she feels is to her favor.
And let's see what the opening is here. It looks like we've got a Nimzo Indian.
A Nimzo Indian. Anna playing pretty quickly, queen c2, castles, and I didn't see the next move after queen c2. Looks like e4, actually. Queen c2, castles, e4, d5. This is an exceptionally sharp line. In this line, the Nimzo Indian, this e4 move. And I think the main lines go e5, knight e4, bishop d3, c5, knight e2. Now, I don't know which lady has more experience in this line, but it's really important because it's such a complicated, sharp variation.
Well, we saw Anna playing Nimzo earlier in the tournament from the white side.
Right. But remember how long she took against Katya yesterday, that even though she was very familiar with the opening, she played it very slowly as white.
And that was a similar line, but with 4d5, right?
Well, that was with a3, not e4.
Oh, I see. So it was the same line, really.
Yeah, it was the same.
Oh, it was with a3, and then after bishop takes c3, queen c3, d5 here.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And today she's gone for e2, e4, d5, e5. And again, there's been some wild, wild games in this line of play. And let's see, just check with our other games. Oops, copy. Interestingly, Anna did not play the theoretical move bishop d3. She played a3, bishop takes c3 check, b takes c3. Now after c5, I always thought that this position was okay for black. Just immediately counterattacking in the center. Let's see the other game.
Yeah, let's see what's going on in Varushin's game.
Okay, let's just go from we'll take it from the top. Lenderman with the English opening, c4, e5, g3, bishop g2, knight f6, knight c3, bishop c5. I kind of call this the Anatoly Karpov system. Black just posts his bishop outside of his pawn structure, doesn't play for a kingside fianchetto, but wants to play d7, d6 when the bishop is outside of the central pawn structure. e3, castles, a3. All of these moves have been seen. In fact, in a U.S. championship game that I had with Alexander Shabalov, Shabalov had black in this particular line. b4. Basically, white could play for d4, but after bishop drops back to a7, there's this constant nagging pressure against this pawn on d4, and white does not want to play the move d5 because after the knight retreats, the bishop is blocked. That's why Alex went for a flank expansion with the move b2, b4, bishop drop back, bishop d2, rook b8. Interesting setup by Akobian here. I think he envisions playing bishop d7 and moving his knight over to the king side. All to play for, of course, in this battle. And let me just see if we're up to date. Wrong one.
In the other game, yeah.
Yeah. So after the move rook b8, Lenderman ended up playing d4. Now it's a little different. Now with the pawns on b4 and d4, white can play for the move c5, shutting out this bishop on a7. And let's just see how it continued. takes, and Alex Lenderman to play. We're expecting him to recapture with his pawn on d4. Then the variation might continue, the game, I mean, might continue something like bishop g4, h3, bishop back to f5. And at some point, white wants to block this bishop on a7, keep it out of the game for as long as possible with the move c4, c5.
So you're liking Lenderman's opening so far?
Yes, I prefer white, definitely. So far, so good. And wrong game. There we go. So, indeed, we did see this move c5 by Tatev. c5, bishop came to d3, queen a5, putting pressure on this diagonal, and more specifically at the moment, this pawn on c3. Anna played knight e2 and black to play. Now, we could see the move pawn takes d4, and of course we're not permitted to recapture thanks to the pin on the diagonal. Takes, takes, castles. This is a little weird. I don't exactly see white's compensation here. I might just simply capture this pawn. Oh, there it is. Pardon me. There's f2, f3. Well, is that so clear to you, Jen?
There's a queen c5 check.
Queen c5 check.
And that's going to get messy. Looks pretty decent for black, yeah.
Maybe not that favorable for white.
No.
White might have to play a move like knight g3, but these are pawns over here. Very sharp struggle occurring here in this line. I wonder how deeply Anna has prepared her, for this variation, because lots of imbalances going on here. And we did see, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. We did see, by the way, recapture by Lenderman with his pawn, as expected. I thought Var was going to play bishop g4 and just provoke white to weaken his king position a little bit with the move h2, h3. Instead, bishop f5 came at once, and now we see this move c4, c5. So a severe problem for black at the moment. How is he going to bring this bishop on a7 into play? From white's point of view, white's play is absolutely as natural as a baby's smile. He wants to play knight e2 to f4, followed by knight c3 to d5, taking up dominating posts in the center. And again and again and again, we're going to see this throughout the game. How is black going to deal with his bishop on a7, which is completely hemmed in by white's pawns?
All right, Maurice, do you have anything for us? What do you think about these positions?
I think they're rich, they're interesting. It seems like something is going to happen that's decisive in these games. You look at these openings, I can't imagine that they expected exactly this line of play for both sides. So they are now, in my opinion, they're winging it. They're just trying to solve problems from move to move. Their grandmaster instincts coming out and just playing serious chess. That's it. You know, this is interesting because they had to switch from playing classic chess, slower time control, to suddenly rapid chess. That transition is not easy to do all the time, but no doubt these players considered it. They made sure they knew the one thing they could not do is be down on the clock. Quick decisions, instinctive responses, not perfect moves, just best move you see right now. And they're battling. Guys?
Thank you, Maurice. Well, again, the sharpest game is between Anna and Abrahamian. I'm looking at this position, Jen, and I'm thinking about the move f2, f3 for white. A little bit of a dangerous move. It's a two-pawn sacrifice for the moment, and it could very easily be a piece sacrifice after a move like bishop takes h7 check, king h8. Now, I don't like the fact that this queen on a5 has a discovered check, but black's king also has issues. After the move bishop d2, I was just thinking about the piece sacrifice that might result from g7, g6. Bishop takes g6, f takes g6, queen takes g6, and this is a wild affair. White is set up for a perpetual check, but as we know, that will lose her the match. So white had better hope that in this case, she'll be able to do to bring more pieces very quickly into the attack. Very unclear, very sharp position. I'm hesitant to say whether this is good for white or not.
Yes, if we backed up one move there,
Sure.
I'm wondering, just to look at, could you play knight takes d4 in this position?
Yes.
Instead, and not
Thank you.
maybe it looks like you're going to win the knight back, right? And you'd be up a pawn.
You're right, absolutely right. Knight takes d4 would be a much better move than capturing on g6.
That is ultra sharp. I don't think that Abrahamian wants to go for this position. This looks very dangerous for black. Even if she's alive, she's definitely losing the knight on c3, although they might, I don't know, trade off pieces with bishop f5 and hope for queen c3 to trade queens. That might be an option for her. She's down a pawn, but I like her position a lot.
Yeah, well, I like white in this case because of the extra pawn for sure, but a real nice majority as well. So we're not going to see that line from black. Let's just see once again.
It was played, Yaz. f3 was indeed played, and knight to c5 was played.
f3, knight to c5, not going for knight c3. So this really does encourage white to play bishop takes h7 check, king over into the corner, and now we really have an important decision to make. Are we worried about our bishop on h7 getting trapped after the move g7, g6
Or can we
gets
play
played?
something like, well, the problem is that move also creates a threat in b3, doesn't it?
Yes, after g6 there is indeed a d2, d3 kind
So it
of.
pretty much forces us to go in for that bishop takes g6.
I just don't know. Like, for example, we could play a move like h4 here. That is a weird move.
Oh, and then but after g6, of course, you have to sacrifice
Exactly.
to avoid the d3.
Exactly. So I'm thinking, well, here, this is where I was going with this one, Jen. g7, g6, h5, d3, queen d2, and check this out. Lots of weaknesses over here on black's dark squares, and white is just dreaming of an opportunity of playing h5 takes g6, getting her rook into the game and attacking black's king. So some slash and burn tactics early here by Anna, and it all starts with this bishop takes h7 check. She did it. Anna.
You've got to like white here. I mean, white is better developed. Well, maybe not better developed, the wrong way to put it, because the king is still in the middle. But she dreamt about having an aggressive position, and now she has it. Right out of the opening, very unbalanced. Anything could happen here. She's just going for it with play. She didn't play your line. She just castled, looking confident that she is not losing a piece with castles. G6, she's signaling, Yaz, I think, her intention to sacrifice and go for it with aggressive piece play. So she's going for it right here. A wild position. I don't think this is ending in a draw. Somebody's winning this game.
But it is a shame for white that she doesn't have that perpetual on hand, because perpetual is tantamount to losing.
Exactly.
Yes,
that
absolutely.
is absolutely the case. No
Well,
question.
but you know,
Not a rated
you've
game
got to
either.
take what you can get, though, right?
Right.
Because Perpet, whatever, but it's mate in her mind right now. It's kingside attack. I don't think she came to the board thinking Perpet anyway.
Oh, absolutely. White's dreaming of playing moves like bishop g5 to f6 check, knight takes.
Knight might come to f4 at some moment as well.
So we're looking at bishop f5 more or less as a forcing move, getting your queen, attacking the queen, getting your bishop over there. But after knight takes d4, you know what? I'd rather be a piece down here than having to try and defend this position and navigate.
Piece, by the way.
Yeah, navigate all the dangers that are lurking, including the obvious knight takes f5, followed by queen g6 check, picking up that rook in case of rook takes.
By the way, Yaz, if you
Yeah.
may go back again, because
Sure.
these lines are so rich, we'll just throw ideas out. Right here, back up there, What if you play pawn takes pawn first? Forcing the knight to move somewhere random, right?
Right.
And then take on g6. Where's the knight going to go?
I would guess e6, going to the king side.
And now grab the pawn. Now you
Right.
don't have bishop f5 anymore. Queen is safe on that side. The attack is not the same, but f4, f5 could happen here.
Right. Yeah, and White's sure picked up a lot of pawns.
White's got pawns already.
You know.
That move runs into bishop h6 right now. Even bishop g5 is possible with the bishop f6 plan. I'd take white any day of the week here.
Exactly.
Certainly in a rapid game.
Oh, definitely, and especially because black's pieces on the queen side are still sleeping.
Yeah, I think bishop g5 was better in that position, actually.
Sure.
Bishop g5, that way you can always throw in a queen h6 check if you're attacked, followed by bishop f6.
Right.
And then f4 and bloom, bloom, bloom.
Exactly.
All right,
That's
well, we
lovely.
are going to take a quick break because I don't think anybody can actually hear us unless
All right.
they're lip reading. So we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to the 2014 U.S. Chess Championships. Looks like so many of you are trying to tune in, and we have sound, I hope.
We have sound.
To recap, we've got draw odds here for both Abrahamian and Akobian. They both bid around the same exact time, 29.45 and 29.55. So Tatev Abrahamian getting attacked by Anna Zatansky, but she does have draw odds in her pocket. But hey, you guys were loving this position for White. You thought the pieces were just leaping into action and that this was going to be very difficult to defend in the time situation, even though she has draw odds.
Precisely. We were looking at a line with g7, g6, and both Maurice and I were very happy to have the white position in this line of play. We don't think the move g7, g6 is, in fact, playable. We just think that that would be losing. Of course, we all like to grab pieces, but not at such a great cost or risk to our king. And since g7, g6 is really looking like a bad move for black, I think Tatev is going to have to settle for d4 takes c3 and just live with the fact that her king is going to be exposed for the rest of the game.
And we do have a couple of extra moves in. So after 14 castles, there was d takes c3.
Right.
And then knight takes c3 by Anna, and bishop to e6 is on the board.
All right.
So pawns are technically even, but white has snapped up that very important protective pawn on h7. So what do you make of this? What do you...
Well, I'm looking immediately, of course, at the move f4 because my gut reaction, my knee-jerk reaction is I would want to get rid of this bishop on e6 because of the threat of f5. And I would be going all out again. Anna really has no choice. She's really got to go ballistic over here on the king side with moves like this.
Or you could preface it with just, so it looks like after king takes h7, just queen takes f5, king g8.
And we've got our
bishop f6.
Ready Rover checkmate coming up
and
here.
after knight e6, you're coming the other way for us. Queen g4 check, and king h7, queen h5, and now checkmate on another square.
Exactly. 20 push-ups.
That's not a back rank mate.
Yeah, it's true.
There's a very critical move in this position that the engine is screaming about. Is possible if you just back up a bit to, you still got to go further back, to the moment before f4. this position here.
Yep.
White can play knight takes on d5. Take a look at that line. Look at the crazy line to inspect. I don't remember ever seeing this tactic ever in a book. Queen f5 now. And saying that the mating attack, or to h3 as well, is unstoppable, basically.
And that discover check against...
Followed by a discover check. An insane idea. It turns out that after knight takes d5, black dare not touch the knight because you lose straight. So you can play the move knight to c6, and it's wild, and it looks like the tactics should be fine for black, though a little bit better for white. But what kind of position is this?
Wow. Well, I tell you, I wouldn't want this with black at all. I would really want to steer away from this.
And she did play it looks like. She did play that incredible move. Knight takes
d5.
on d5. She played it. She found... I mean, I've never seen this tactic. I don't recall seeing this kind of idea because this formation normally doesn't happen. The bishop being able to take on h7 and deflecting the bishop with a sacrifice. I mean, of course, we've seen deflecting sacrifices before, but handing the h-pawn followed by the rip, this is amazing.
Yeah. Well, this is a great move to play in time pressure. Zahansky really is showing her skills. If she plays this well, she might be in good shape against Irina. So bishop takes d5. Let's go over what's going on after queen to f5.
So the idea, as Maurice explained, is you just want to move your queen over to the h-file so that this bishop will be able to back up with a discover check. So
and
just
so suppose the rook moves away or something to make some error as well.
Right, and then the idea would be to send black's king on a very short journey, such as this. Check. Oh, pardon me, I did it wrong. Check. King.
Oh, okay.
Why do you what you did? That looked good too. Bishop G5.
What about interpolating? Yeah. What about starting with Bishop G5, especially?
But this is just as good.
Yeah.
This is just
totally forcing its mate.
Right.
F6 and then
take
and
this.
Bishop
rip
F6
it.
or Queen G7. But
Rip
Bishop F6 wasn't Bishop F6 mating straight?
Yeah, I agree. Bishop
takes
F6
and whatever you do, it's going to be mate.
Beautiful. Mate indeed. Gorgeous
20 squats.
Squats definitely for this.
No, you can't punish her for that, mate. That's gorgeous. Are you kidding? That's a fantastic finish.
So fabulous finish here. And so instead of moving that rook over, let's try. It sounds like black's going to have to play something like g6 here, and we've been looking at these similar variations.
G7, oof. Remember your rook on F8.
My rook's hanging, so you can just play bishop takes g6, sure.
And I'm over.
And if you take on g6 here, then white actually is...
material ahead. Bishop F6 is coming into the position.
And black's paralyzed to boot. So
exactly.
So this looks completely indefensible.
Wow.
And Tatev Abrahamian sinking into a deep think after this move, knight takes d5, obviously did not see it. Pretty impressive for Zahansky. And look, she's only used 4 minutes.
And bishop takes d5.
Look at, she's going to go down now. That bishop was not a wise decision.
Queen f5 is an automatic here. Anna will not be spending too much time.
What is her plan to defend this position?
On this move.
And knight c6 actually was self-evident. Taking now and allowing this queen to land on f5 just seems hyper dangerous. Knight c6 was another move, just going down a pawn, but it was hard for her to accept that situation. But she should have played knight c6. This, I don't see how she's going to survive bishop takes and queen takes, queen to f5. The king is just going nowhere. I mean, nowhere. She might have to shift her rook all the way somehow. The engine is giving a move like rook to d8 as best here, allowing queen h5, and now knight to e6, bishop g6 check, king over, and then taking on f7. So maybe she doesn't get mated, just in danger after bishop back, and the pieces are flooding around her king. She's in big trouble in this line. The worst part about this is that it's very easy to play for white.
Oh,
there's nothing to think about. You got one strategic idea: mate the king.
And even this rook to d8 and knight e6 idea is kind of hard to see because the whole idea is that knight e6 stops the bishop coming from g5, and by putting the rook on d8 instead of e8, you are preventing bishop takes f7 check from actually winning the rook on e8. So, but it's kind of a weird way to defend, to save your shirt, so that at least you can hang on for a few moves. Those other variations, it's just kaput. I mean, just completely over. And I don't even know if she'll see this.
But this looks scary enough for black. Wow.
So explain why the
Look
queen
at the time.
h7, the queen h7 idea here doesn't work as well. So
In this
the
position,
concept here is that the knight on e6 prevents the bishop from coming to g5 in the key variations and protects g7 as well.
precisely, the knight on e6 is a great defender. Queen h7 check, king f8, queen h8 check, king e7. You don't have this move, bishop g5, key move in the attack. So that's what the idea of the knight on e6 does, is covers the g7 pawn and the g5 square, as you were mentioning. That was why the computer said, well, give me that pawn. Bishop takes f7 check, king f8. This is, I should say that this is all a variation that we're looking at. It seems very highly forcing. And from White's point of view, White's got...
Except Tatev did not play that. Instead, she played queen b6. So she's hoping that she'll be able to play, I don't know what she missed. I mean, the bishop on c1 guards the h6 square. So that queen's not coming over to, it's not a quover, a defensive quover. Instead, it's just a one-move discovery attack. But how does that queen really help? That's the question. I mean, can't we just play...
Actually, worst part, Jen, sorry, is rook b1.
Bishop
Rook
b3.
b1 is actually cold winning.
Rook
b1 is winning, but it's not the most obvious move on the board. Getting the queen, asking the queen to find squares, rook b1 in this position is the best move, and White will win a queen, apparently, after queen to c6.
Because queen e6, just queen h5 threatens bishop f5.
Exactly. Queen h5 is interrupting everything, and there's no way to slow the attack down anymore. She's in big trouble. A move like rook to d8 allows bishop g6. The computer, by the way, is giving mate in 19 in this moment, which is not good to deal with all the attack. Well, obviously the attack is just rolling.
And you haven't, and the difference here is you haven't brought your knight to defend the g5 square. So now we're back into those other variations
with
where
queen
it's just
h7,
ugly.
h8. Yeah.
This is terrifying.
So very typical defensive maneuver to get your queen into the defense, but the h6 and the g6 squares are covered. So
Exactly.
it's just going nowhere.
By the way, guys, we should jump to the other game because it looks like Akobian is winning. He looks like he's totally winning. The attack fell apart in the other game. Akobian is all over his opponent right now. There's nothing in the board that says Lenderman is going to survive.
Well, let's see how that happened.
Wow.
I mean, this just looked, we were thinking that this one would explode later in the game because
When we left it around these parts.
a more closed position, right?
Right, c5, rook e1, c6, queen b3. Okay, so what VAR is thinking is that once he moves his rook, this bishop will get back into the game, and Lenderman just traded knights, traded rooks, and then popped out with a move d5. Wow. So takes on c5, takes on c6. All of these moves were played, and I think Lenderman has had an oversight in the position. I think his intention when he went for this very forcing, very concrete line was he was thinking knight a4, he was going to win back this pawn, open up his bishop, and was thinking that in case of takes, he had this really nice move, bishop takes c6, skewering, snagging an exchange. But look, this bishop on a7 reaches down into the position, and even a move like, for example, queen f5, attacking the pawn. I was also thinking even about queen h3, but queen
This
f5
looks pretty hot. I mean, just
very, very comfortable for Varuzhin.
so now if bishop takes e8, I mean, queen.
We've got a check.
Queen takes f2, king h1 now.
Followed by check, and that's all she wrote. VAR Akobian going into the finals in this variation.
So instead, let's see what actually happened on the board.
Okay,
Well,
let's
last
get.
move, it looks like. He still hasn't played the move.
He had. Oh, pardon me. We have this
Yes,
position.
exactly. After b takes c6, knight a4 is on the board.
So this was Lenderman's concept. He was probably thinking how sweet it is.
Look at Lenderman. Look what he just reacted. He just jerked back, and now he's brought himself forward. I think he sees now that he is losing, and he's trying to stay as quiet as a mouse, but it's not going to help. It's too late.
It's
He's
too
played
late.
the move. Varuzhin now played the move c4.
C5, C4, opening up that bishop, and that's what this whole Karpov line is all about, that you want to have that bishop active, and it's now active. So
And you were looking at C takes before. Bishop,
I was-
Bishop takes C6, Queen F5, but this move might even be an improvement on that, right?
exactly, C takes B4 was my line. Bishop takes
C4
C6.
is better, guys. It's actually a lot better. This move gives black some white some chances.
So C4 more forcing, not allowing white to win the exchange, but that was a poisonous exchange. So why is this more defensible for white? Lenderman, by the way, has played Queen takes C4.
Which was a
Exactly.
bad
Well-
move, it turns out.
All right, well, can't
Because
expect these guys.
Queen D2 is looking really good. Queen F5, Knight G4.
Queen D2 threatening, I mean,
Queen takes F2 check. Bishop
and rook
Rook
F1,
E1.
Bishop D3 is in the position.
Precisely.
The point here, guys, I'm sorry, it's
Yes.
impossible for these guys to play perfect chess at this time control. But the challenge in such a wild position is to just maintain yourself and not blunder. The reason why C takes B4 was better is because it was forcing. It actually grabbed the pawn in his hands, and then all his attack was going to work anyway. The reason why this is not as good is because he could have played Queen C3 and stopped the queen from penetrating. That's the difference. He didn't have to take this pawn back. He had just gone a pawn down. He decided to grab the pawn back, and now he's going to be much worse. But if T takes B4 would have said, I have the pawn, and you're much worse. And that's why C4 was not as good. He could have just stolen a pawn, and the attack on this side was just too strong. But again, these guys are playing at this ridiculous time pressure. And this kind of position, this is craziness. That's why it's just anything could happen still. But definitely black is better right now, but not as much as if he had captured on B4. Guys?
Thank you, Maurice. And after Queen takes C4, are we agreed that Queen D2 looks like death and mayhem over here?
F2 is also a big move, apparently, in this position. Sacrificing on F2. Check that line out.
Wow, bishop takes F2, king takes F2. I'm assuming queen comes down to D2 with a check. If you drop your king back to F1,
Well, Bishop D3 is in the position.
bishop D3 skewers the queen. Oops.
Yeah. Double attacks, right?
And he did it. He did play bishop takes F2.
He's
Oops.
played Bishop takes F2, so we've had bishop sacrifices in both games.
Exactly.
Incredible.
F2 and H7.
Bishop
They're
takes
earning the
F2.
right to play the defending champions, aren't they?
Bam.
So king takes F2. Let's see.
And I'm thinking queen
So
has
after
to come
queen comes
check.
to D2 check.
King back, queen goes to check, king
The
over.
rook down,
or
yeah,
even knight here. Oh, rook down is killing at once.
is killing, yeah.
So just rook E1 check, you're saying?
No, rook E2, rook E2. Just
Oh,
Rook
rook
E2.
E2.
Attacking that bishop.
And there's
Boy.
no way for us to connect except for queen takes C6.
Queen takes C6. Okay.
only
And
one.
then
Yeah.
now
And
knight
now
E4.
you're-
Now knight E4
E4.
disconnecting us and opening up that thread again of rook takes G2, and we just can't defend the bishop again.
And not to mention queen E3 check and a smothered mate.
Ah, yeah, show us that.
Okay, so a smothered mate, how would I do it? Okay, I'll make a random move for white. Bishop takes G7, queen E3 check. This is one of my all-time favorite
Yeah, you gotta love
smothered
this one.
mates. You sacrifice the queen, you force, this is my favorite pattern in chess, and checkmate to the white
And
king.
this would be a fitting way to get into the finals of the U.S. Championship against Goddard Gamsky.
Wow.
But now Lenderman thinking after bishop takes F2 check.
You can't take that pawn. By the way, even in that line, Yaz, if you back up just a couple of moves
Oops, sorry.
to the critical moment, so C4 was played, queen takes C4, bishop takes F2, king takes. Just walk us through the line again. Queen D2 check. Once this rook lands on this rank, it's over. And if queen C6, there's also a move you'll like, Yaz, because you mentioned it. Queen E3 check.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
devastating.
Just queen E3
King
immediately.
over to H1, and then rook E1 check, and you're
Made it.
finished.
So
Bishop F1 is the only move. Bishop E4 check coming. Oh, embarrassing.
So there are
Yikes.
multiple ways
It's
to
just
win
over.
in that line. So instead, after bishop takes F2, is Rushin considering rejecting this and just playing king H1?
He has to.
Lenderman has to.
Lenderman, of
yes,
course, yes.
Has to
Lenderman's gonna
decline.
play king H1 instead.
Right.
But
And
now this pawn is not just any pawn.
not just any pawn, and black wins a pawn and gets to continue his attack as well. Very attractive move to my mind is a move like bishop E4, getting rid of a key defender, knight E4.
Knight E4 also looks very appealing.
Very nice. All kinds of really superb opportunities here for VAR. I
Yes,
like
knight
and,
takes E4.
and then the simplest may be a simple
Getting the queen into the fray. Yeah.
Queen D2 with rook E1 check on the horizon. white is just
this
for,
looks
and he
the
has
bishop.
taken
And he
the
took
bishop.
on f2 instead, and Varuzhin immediately made his reply. He's immediately played queen to d2 check.
Bam.
And then Lenderman did play king to g1.
And now we're expecting
this
this.
attack, guys. He's in trouble.
He doesn't see the move rook e2 because there's so much to analyze. He's partly looking at queen e3 check. He's looking at lines with knight e4. And you know what? I think he might have missed the move rook e2 and how powerful it is. Interpolating that move. You know, because there's a lot to look at. There's also rook e1 check to look at.
Exactly.
So he looked at all of those more forcing moves, missing the... I can't quite call it a quiet move.
Yeah,
but
he played.
it's quieter than...
Well,
Huge. Rook e2 is on the board. Wow.
Rook e2 check, and now Lenderman, it's sinking in that this was not one of... I don't think this was in his tree of variations.
not at all. But I tell
Otherwise,
you
he would have played
something.
king h1.
Ever since I was a kid playing chess, the idea of doubling rooks on the 7th or doubling major pieces on the 7th was always high on my list of priorities when I'm on the attack. And a move like rook e2 would have been, you know, played in a bullet game instantly. I wouldn't even thought about.
You wouldn't
rook
have
e1.
thought about the checks or the queen
No.
e3. No,
I just
but
gone rook e2.
I just think that's my explanation for why Lenderman accepted it. Because he
Yes.
wouldn't have seen this. Because this is not hard to calculate once you see the move, right?
Exactly.
Queen takes c6 and knight e4 just dominating.
I'm sure 94. By the way, I'm sure 94 is a winning move. I take a
queen
look at.
e3 check, yeah.
Yeah, I take a look at that defender and I just trade off, when I'm on the attack, I just trade off my opponent's defending pieces, a good defending piece. So you get rid of that bishop and now you're threatening checkmates galore. It's
But
just
hey,
all
you
over.
know what he did? He actually, maybe he did see this and his plan was to play bishop takes c6 because that's what happened.
Wow.
We have a move from Varuzhin to
Guys, that's the last piece.
Lenderman.
The last piece deserting its king to the
Right.
king side. Look at those pieces on the queen side, hovering away, leaving, deserting their king in the
H2 is-
moment of danger, of death. It's over. I mean, this position is, but why not queen e3 and queen f2? Isn't that just simple? Doesn't that just
Yes.
win with ease?
Yeah, lots of
What's
winning
even happening after
variations.
rook takes h2?
You like rook h2.
I like
Maurice
the
likes
bishop
queen
e4.
e3 check.
I like queen e3 check, queen f2. You just sit right in their face. That guy can't do anything.
Let me just put Maurice's variation on the board because it is truly forcing. Check this out. Queen takes h2, checkmate in
Our
the
only
position.
move would be queen h4 to defend it.
Or queen takes rook. Yeah. Ugh, queen h4. But
Queen h4, and then
94 after that.
and then just knight e4 threatening now queen g2, and then we're playing queen h3.
or queen
usually not
f3
pretty.
even. The queen f3 check is crushing.
Var is absolutely certain he's winning.
How
he's
many
just
wins
checking.
do we need to find for black until we can
3, 4,
agree?
5, 6, right? But
And he
so
did play
many.
knight to e4, it looks like.
Yeah,
So
knight
he's playing
e4.
knight e4 instead.
And your move, Jen, rook takes h2. That looks like a stone cold winner too.
But you were the winner. You won. You did your move. So
94. Well, it just looks so good. And again, that smother
that
checkmate.
smother Nate is on. Well, not exactly now because at the end of the variation.
By the way,
G2
Var,
square.
Guys, this
Var
position-
looked very
This
happy with
position is
himself.
busted. You should go to the other game where another king side attack is going on, and she's played a magical move, a4. Look at that move, a4. She knows, does white, that black's king has only one way to run, and that's that f8 square, and she's put the pawn a4 on the board so that her bishop can go to a3, and it looks like we're going to see another mating attack happen on the other board.
That's right. In fact, so we saw the position after queen to b6, Yasser, remember?
Right. We were
and
back
Maurice
a
was
moment.
suggesting the move rook
b1,
b1.
which looked really good.
Instead, Anna played another move. Again, there's multiple good moves in this position, just like in our other game. Anna played queen to h3, and now Tatev coming to the defense with knight e6. We mentioned that was a key defender. Anna getting her king out of the way because knight e6 is actually check, king h1. Now rook d8, making some air against bishop f5 and just queen h7 mate. And now the move a4.
Right, Anna.
Trying to bring that bishop into the game on a3, and black played knight to f8. And here we are.
I can't believe it. I can't
What's
believe
that?
it. This move a4 has allowed black the time to put a knight on f8. And what did your friend
Ben Larson.
Ben Larson say? A knight
You
on
can't
f8,
mate
you
me
can't
with-
get mated.
Right.
She is now winning. White is now worse. There's
Wow.
no attack
So
that
why
works
can't we?
from this position because the knight is guarding the position. And you're going to have to trade your dark square bishop off for that knight if you want to have any attack going. But black's going to have time to
take
save
with
herself.
the king. So if we check, so say we check on The problem is, so if we check on f5 and then you play king g8 and then we play bishop a3, the problem is you can just play like knight d7 or something.
No, the bishop is left, queen h6. The bishop's gone now. The queen will come over to defend the king, and there's no mating attack.
Yeah.
Queen's just, you can't put your bishop on that diagonal, queen h6, and where's the attack? And you only have one pawn for the attack. So her timing was off. She needed to play that move rook b1 earlier to get this attack going. Instead, she played this maneuver, and with a4 too late, and now she's worse. In fact, she's losing. She's just losing now. She's
Bishop
in
f5
big trouble.
check has been played. King g8 in response. Rook to b1, Anna's idea.
Rook b1 instead of bishop a3. Yep.
Yes.
Attacking black's queen. Attacking black's queen. The bishop, of course, on f5 defends the rook, so the queen has to move. Let's say we're going to pick a square. We'll pick queen c6.
Queen a6. Queen
Try
a6.
a6. You're heading a rook on
Exactly.
on the
Queen
back
a6
row.
has already been played in the game.
All right, queen a6, picking up a tempo against the rook, pretty much forcing what Anna's intention was, bishop a3. Maurice mentioned the stone-cold defense, queen
She could also move her bishop to the
h6.
other side now, though, after
But
she realizes that the knight is coming to d7. Maybe she's going to play bishop g5 instead.
And look at bishop e6, guys. If black plays bishop e6, that light square bishop leaves the board, and you're in big trouble.
No more checkmates on h7 after a trade of bishops. True enough.
You don't even need to bring the knight out. Just bishop e6, trade off those guys. The attack is dead. Pure and simple.
We
the
may
attack
have-
is dead. Why are these guys laughing?
We may have to have...
And let's see what's going on. Are we seeing a finale in the Lenderman-Akobian game? It looks like Lenderman might be about to resign here. Let's move over to Lenderman-Akobian.
Okay, I'll bring that up on my board right now. Oops, got it wrong. Sorry.
Last time we looked at it, it looked like
Wow.
absolute carnage. And
Knight
now-
e4. Knight e4 was played, and bishop d4.
They repeated moves.
Oh.
Akobian doesn't have to. Akobian has mate, but he's repeating moves. He doesn't have to find the mate. He could just repeat moves and draw and go on as challenger for the title.
That's hilarious.
That would be crazy. That would be crazy if he just drew the game. He can just play rook takes h2. The game's over.
Right.
Rook takes h2. The mating attack is way too strong. But all he has to do is just keep repeating moves, and he's in. And I think he knows that. Lenderman knows that. And there's no risk to drawing the game. But will he do it, or will he find he did take on h2. He's going for the win. Kudos to him.
That's right. Although I have to say, I think if Lenderman just put his hand out and said, draw in this position, you just take it and take the extra 15 minutes of rest against Gata. Remember, this game, of course, is not rated. It's an Armageddon game with draw odds. But it's considered rude to do that, for Lenderman to offer a draw, because it's totally pointless.
It's true.
It's very rude. You know, he might as well just resign if he thinks he's completely lost.
Right.
How does he defend knight g3 mate right now?
Right. You're looking at knight g3 mate, queen g2, and rook h1 mate. Mates galore.
Just as a chess player, maybe you feel a little sick inside to take the draw. I mean, come on, this is just mating, right?
Right. But on the other hand, you know, I've always felt that your job in this situation is to just qualify and move on to the finals. So had VAR just made that repetition, I wouldn't have criticized him at all. I would just said, okay, that's
Very
what
practical.
that's
Well,
all you
also,
need to do.
He has a tough task against him. He had to play this nerve-wracking game with black, you know, win or draw, and now he has to play Gata Kamsky, who's a fantastic rapid player. Because the ladies' game is going to go on a little bit longer, he's going to have a little bit more rest and time.
Right, because you
which
want to
is very
coordinate
valuable.
the start of the next matches. yes.
Exactly, and we actually got a question about that. There will be a 15-minute break after the last Armageddon game finishes until we start the rapid matches. So, for instance, if the women's game lasts another 10-15 minutes, Varushin would have a full half hour
Which is
before he has to
wonderful.
play his rapid match.
Look at Lenderman. You saw quite a few faces he just pulled. He is now resigning himself to the fact that he will not have a chance to play for the title. He looks dejected. You could see that way he just flicked his hands is just obvious resignation. He knows it's over. His championship dreams have gone up in smoke in a very bad game for him with the white pieces. This is just finished. But he did give us a great run. He showed great fighting spirit in this tournament, winning 3 out of the first 5 games, then losing 2, only to bounce back and win 2. Unfortunately for him, it looks like the finish line is here.
Amazing tournament by Alexander Lenderman. A lot of his fans in Brooklyn and all across the country and world now. He's picked up a lot of new fans in this tournament. When I said, who do you think is going to win? I had so many people say Lenderman or his, online handle, Manes. He is...
He's playing to mate. It's mate on the
H1
board.
check has occurred. Bishop G1. I think we saw that final, and the game is over.
He played
Yes,
93 mate, Jen.
We played checkmate on the board. Thank you to Alexander Lenderman giving us a pretty mate on the board. Akobian advances to play Gata Kamsky.
And what were the final moves, Jen? It was
Rook H1, bishop to G1.
Well, after bishop to D4, I mean.
Oh, after bishop
on
D4.
H2.
He took on H2.
Queen C2.
Queen C2, Rook H1 check, Bishop G1,
Knight G3 mate.
and Knight takes G3 is checkmate. The king cannot move anywhere because of Black's queen. Checkmate, and Varusian Akobian will be in the finals.
You couldn't have asked for a more exciting game in this rapid game.
Looks like Tatev Abramian is going to join him because she is just shut the whole attack down. She's just a piece up against her opponent, and they're almost even on the clock, as a matter of fact. There's no attack anymore. It is gone in smoke. Anna had a clean victory, and well, maybe it wasn't clean. It wasn't easy. Let's not put it that way. It was definitely tricky, but she played a couple of natural moves, and she's no longer winning, guys.
But she's going to have to fight. What about trying a rover here? She's got to try something.
Well,
so let's try bringing her rook over to H4, and
I'm guessing that Rook D6 to try her best to pursue some kind of attack, but it sure doesn't look...
Instead, she's played the move bishop to F6, so she's trying to figure out some kind of tactics on those dark squares.
Trying to mix it up with bishop F6.
Another piece.
But that knight on F8 is just such a wonderful defensive unit after bishop takes, queen takes.
Bishop takes F5, queen takes F5 has been played on the board.
Right. She could play moves like queen E6, and this knight, by the way, can defend in all kinds of ways, either on the G6 squares or on the E6 square.
No, it's not even clear to me that you can't just take that bishop. I mean...
Take, yeah, and maybe knight D.
That's dangerous.
Taking is dangerous?
Very dangerous.
You're going to have to defend, the idea is you're going to have to defend the F6 pawn in order to get to H6, so I don't see what the idea is here.
Well, she has rook D6 at some point in the position, or even her rook going to B7. Her rook can take on B7 as well.
Okay, rook takes B7, so it's too dangerous, but damn, it doesn't look like it's enough here for Anna. Instead, Tatev didn't take on F6. Instead, she just played queen to E6, queen G5, knight G6, and similar position, except she actually didn't take the bishop. But guess what? It looks like the bishop's virtually trapped. I mean, it can go to D8, but then the E5 pawn hangs as well, and the knight comes into the position with an actual check on the bishop.
Right. Well,
guys, the move F4 is playable here. Even losing the bishop, apparently there is a potential counterplay for white here. After F4, there'll be some calculation that needs to be done.
So knight G6, F4, takes an F6, and now... So you're threatening F5.
Can't do that. Rook takes on D7 in that position?
Rook
oh, no, because of the cheat. No, there's a mate on the back rank. There's a mate on the back rank. Queen E1. Queen E1, so you got to be
20
careful.
push-ups.
40.
40
push-ups in that position.
It's a playoffs, man. We're upping the stakes, dude.
Wow, the blinds have been raised. Blinds have been raised
Blinds
considerably.
gone up.
Yes, exactly, considerably. And Anna, okay, she's running
But Anna
on
didn't
fumes.
do it. She did not play F4. Instead, she played rook to D6.
Whoa.
But isn't there a takes F6 now? Can't you just play...
Well, I will take the queen.
Oh, okay.
And
Pawn
take
takes
the
F6.
rook.
Yeah, okay, so you're getting a little bit too much there.
Okay, rook D6. But wait a minute. There is an alert on the back rank, queen A2, could come with it does come with the tempo against the rook, and that has been played
and Tatev
quickly.
did play queen takes A2, so now, and then Anna quickly played rook on B to D1.
Right, and now...
What's Anna's threat?
Well, I'm thinking she's hoping for bishop takes G7 followed by rook takes G6, and just praying to the gods that something lands big time against Black's.
Anna is actually playing some of the computer's top moves. She's playing the best tries right now, and her moves are very complex. That you have to find the defenses in this position. It's not so easy to just win that bishop. It looks like she's desperate. Of course she's desperate. But she's actually finding the moves that cause the most trouble. You have to find good moves to save yourself here.
Very interesting. So is I guess rook d8 might be one of her ideas. But then after rook d8, you could just play knight c6.
Her last move, though, was inaccurate, putting the rook on d1 because she should have put it on g1 and save her back rank, which looks counterintuitive. If I may just bring that line up on my board.
Sure, Maurice.
Okay, so in this line here, it turns out that her last move was inaccurate. She needed to put her rook on g1. The reason why will be shown in a moment. This capture, followed by pawn takes, looks like there's a bind, but suddenly this move, queen f2, and the move rook e1 is on tap as a threat, so she doesn't get to do anything at all. She can't play for queen h6. She lost this move will eventually lose her a tempo and force a trade. She might have to play a move like h3 and allow this check to happen, and now the position has changed considerably against her after takes, king up, and there's even a queen trade here where she'll be up 2 pieces. I know there's a pin on the back row, but we know that's not going to last very long. After the king moves, sooner or later, there'll be an untangling on this side, and she's going to lose. So it looks like her move, rook d1, is inaccurate. Very natural move, though. If Tatev finds the sequence, she will be winning for sure, but she hasn't moved as yet. Now down to under 11 minutes and counting.
Nice.
So a tough situation, but if Tatev finds this move, if the player with black, Abrahamian, finds the sequence, takes on f6 with the pawn, and then play queen f2, she will be the contender for the title. It will not even be hard. It will be very easy.
Wow. Nice, nice, nice. So that was why rook g1 was key. And again, you can't fault Anna because, you know, your natural inclination is to keep your pieces as active as possible when you're on the attack. But
Well,
this tempo rook e1 is key. Crucial.
Yeah, rook g1 is obviously a very difficult move to find. So now queen e1 and rook e1 brutal threats. Rook g1 doesn't help now because just...
Rook e1 again. Oh, there's a check on the back. Well, then you could develop your knight instead. If now rook g1, knight develops. Wait a minute. What am I saying?
That's actually kind of a cool position, though. Can we look at rook g1?
Yes.
How
just a
after
second.
rook e1?
We've got a clear idea, and after rook e1, we've got this
rook
check.
e8 check is really pretty because now after king h7, yeah. Well, I actually wanted to play. I wanted to play rook h8 check for fun, but.
Also a very nice line. If you take with the knight, we've got the mate on g7.
But queen h5 is much more prosaic. And king takes queen h6, queen g7, finally getting into that d7 square. But as you point out, knight is c6 now.
Or knight d7.
What's wrong with queen h4, guys? Just queen h4 and trade queens?
No question. I was just thinking after knight d7, in case of rook d7, now rook e1 is just crushing.
And meanwhile, if queen h6, knight takes f6, getting rid of the offending pawn, which was your only prayer.
Exactly.
So unfortunately, it seems like there's a couple ways there for black to play.
But a quick question. If you take, and she has captured the bishop, can white recapture with a rook? No, she has captured with a pawn. Not to analyze. And now this move, queen
now
a2
we're
to
expecting
f2,
queen to f2
which has been played.
No. It says queen e2 instead.
Queen, oh, sorry, she stopped.
Queen e2. So
Ooh.
still carrying the threat of queen e1 check, but doesn't guard the h4 square like you did in your previous variation.
No longer queen h4. So queen e2, how about
and now
h4?
pawn h4 has
Yes.
happened. So queen f2 more accurate, just protecting that square at all costs.
And now it turns out she must find queen f2 to stay winning in the position.
Queen f2 anyway.
is winning still because,
Sweet, because
she's
h5,
looking to play
queen h4,
She's looking to play queen h4. She finds that, the game is over. There's no more attack. She's winning.
Because queen f2 actually just threatens queen h4 check because there was actually a weakness, and now h5, queen h4 check anyway.
Trading the queens. Yeah, that's
and
it.
that's what we're always trying to do when we've got
On the defense.
when we're on the defense. Trade queens, game over.
Absolutely.
So critical moment for Tatev Abrahamian. She's, despite the fact that she had a really tough position, she's played really, really well very quickly.
May I add, by the way, that in this situation, she has 2 moves. She has queen f2 and she has knight d7. Everything else loses. Everything else. So she has to find, it's not, of course, Queen F2 is not that hard to find, but according to the computer, everything else loses. Those two moves, Queen F2, we'd play in a flash, certainly. So it's an easy moment for her, should be, but if she tries something else, she's going to lose or at least be losing in the position.
Well, how is knight d7 though?
And she's found it, Queen F2.
And she did play Queen F2. Not a surprise. I mean, it seems like in rapid she is pretty good at calculating Tatev Abrahamyan.
And she's proving it today. Wow.
That's got to have Anna red right now. That move says,
Wow.
sorry, your attack is dead.
Black's up 2 knights.
2 knights
We
for
don't
some
see that too
pawns
often.
and the F6 square, but the big problem for white is Queen H4 check is trading queens, Rook E1 check is trading rooks.
I mean, from Black's point of view.
Yeah, for Anna.
I think Anna knows it now, guys.
And
it's
Queen H6.
bad.
The difference was before, like Queen F2, at least when we played Queen H6, Queen H4 wasn't coming with a check. So
Right.
kind of, you stopped the back rank mate, but you've created another problem, another check, if you will.
Yeah. Quick, I was wondering.
Anna has played a move. She played Rook on 6 to D4.
I was about to say, how about Rook,
And then a quick Knight D7 by Tatev Abrahamyan.
a quick Knight D7? Wow. Okay, so she could take the knight then.
Yeah.
And I think she's going to have to, by the way, take the knight
And how many pawns
allow,
is she picking up for this?
exactly, allow
So
the
you think
trade
this
of
was a bit too quick by Tatev, and now after Rook takes B7, how easy is this?
I don't
You've
say
got
it's easy at all.
So Tatev wanted to get a position where
She's
the-
safe. She's
she's
just
safe.
safe.
She played safety first. That was not the best move, knight to d7. She's been aggressive and played Rook E1 check anyway, but she's decided to play this move, knight to d7, giving back a whole piece in this position. She will have a winning position, but it looks like
Anna
Anna didn't go for
did
it.
not take on D7. Instead, she just played H5. And now Rook E1 check has been played.
So knight D7,
And Rook E1
H5
check,
going
Rook
for the
E1
knight.
check, King H2 on the board.
Wow.
But now, whoa, this is getting weird. So now if Rook takes D1, Queen H4 check again. But after Rook takes D1 instead, I'm sure Anna's going to play Pawn takes G6.
Or how about this? In this line, by the way, Anna's kept her H pawn, and she does
indeed.
have ideas of King H3, G4, G5, G6.
So Anna just trying to counterpunch and keep this game going.
but she's losing a rook, guys. Queen G1 check and rook takes rook is a rook.
And let's see what
Period.
we've got. So Rook D1, H5, check
So just
to,
Queen G1.
and let's say, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to put my king, but let's say I put my king on G, and just Rook takes, and there's no checkmate at all because Black's king just dances and prances its way to the queen side. Yeah, that is
so
a
you're
lot.
just saying after just after pawn takes F7 check, just King F7, Queen G7 check, King E6.
And just run for the hills.
And Tatev did see that because she has played Queen to G1 check. So now, no doubt, having calculated that, King G3, Rook takes D1 on the board, figuring out, she still has 6 minutes left, and she's really rationing her time well here because, it's pretty scary to see those pawns coming at you. And she's like, I'm good.
Right. So after Queen G1 check, what have we seen? King G3?
King G3,
and
Rook
she
takes D1, H takes G6, and now
Queen E1
instead
check?
of your move, Rook takes D4, we have Queen E1 check, yes.
And guess what? I think she has a perpetual in the position as well.
Ah, right. So she's just going to do that, yeah.
Right.
In her case, I think she will because, Kovian was made in 2, and Tatev's case.
Why not just take the draw and get to that final and
she's going for it.
She's winning easily with
Sure.
the check and take the rook, but she knows a draw is all she needs. No errors possible.
what moves have been made after Queen E1 check, by the way?
King G3, Queen E1 check. And this is a very practical decision because it is a little bit messier, and even just calculating your king coming to E6.
Right.
It makes no sense when you have 0% risk with this.
You see Anna's
Exactly.
face there, guys. You
Yes,
could
she
see
is.
she looked up and
Realization.
it's sinking in that her chance at her 5th title has evaporated as well, and she's just allowing the repetition
Yes.
of moves. Nothing she can do about it, and now she's congratulated her opponent.
Wow.
All right, and they are friends. You can see that the finale here was a little bit different than the Irina Krushon Zatonski finale.
You're right. Respect.
Anna Light, they're friends. She's wishing, I'm sure she's wishing Tatev good luck in her final game. Tatev wow, I thought she played really impressively under pressure and rapid. No lie that she won that death match, and that Anna herself said that she thought that the chances were even. And not only that, she thought that Tatev's chances against Grandmaster Irina Krush in the final were pretty
better.
slim.
She actually, no, well, she said that
She
her
said-
chances were better than her own or something like that.
She said good chances.
Good chances,
What
but for
we
sure.
can interpret that however we want.
Exactly, but Anna will be disappointed with herself because she really came out of that opening with a huge, huge attack, and I thought she was going to win it.
And let's take a look at how it's going to shake out in the U.S. Chess Championship. We've got a game 25 with a 5-second increment between Varuzhin Akobian and Gata Kamsky. So the 5-second increment, honestly, these games are going to be a tiny bit shorter than these, right? Because 45 minutes and 30 minutes, even with no increment, these games will actually be shorter.
Right.
So that will be a 2-game match. So both players get a hit with colors, hit with white and a hit with black. And then in the women, we've got the same situation. Irina Krush playing against Tatev Abrahamyan, and they are going to play 1 game with white, 1 game with black. And odds are one of those matches is going to be split, and we're going to see another Armageddon game just like this.
Wow.
So we may have 2 champions in 2 hours, or more likely, we may have 1 more playoff, and the excitement increases. So stay with us. This is going to be pretty exciting. Maurice, how do you think it's going to shake out?
Well, I gave my commitment, and I was 50%. I got the win that I expected for the Akobian. I thought he would have great chances with the black pieces, but Anna, my guess, slipped up. The same thing with you, Yaz. You gave 2 draws, and we were 50%. That's what the experts are about. Combine our guesses, and we're good. This next matchup, though, is going to be tremendous. I believe that Irina Krush sitting on the side, both players, as a matter of fact, they're champions. They've been here before. I would guess that Irina Krush should go through in this matchup, although I do admit Tatev looked loose and free and played really well to defend herself in that crazy position that she was in tremendous danger. I still think the 5-time champ should move on. It'd be epic if she lost and we had a new champion, first time in 8 years. The other matchup, Varuzhin played so well, but you gotta like Gata Kamsky. I mean, the way he is so solid right now, it's hard to imagine him losing. He's the only player in the entire competition who has not lost a single game to date. That is on the men's side. Of course, on Irina Krush's side, she didn't lose any games. But on the men's side, Kamsky looks like he doesn't plan to lose any games, period. Varuzhin might have to hope that he gets black in the Armageddon game in order to draw and move and win the title. But between that and now are 2 key games he's going to have to survive against Gata Kamsky. It's going to be a really epic match.
All right, and we are going to take a quick break, and we're going to be back with more from the U.S. Chess Championships as we move on to playoffs. I think it's going to be pretty tight. I think that Gata Kamsky is a favorite. I also think Krush is a favorite, but I think that game will actually be closer because I was really impressed by Tatev's handling of the clock in this game. I thought it was phenomenally good.
And she looks hungry, doesn't she?
She was on the ropes. But
out there for her first title.
She was on the ropes, but Irina's clock handling has left something to be desired. So the stronger player, but the worse clock handler.
Right.
We'll see how it goes. and welcome back to the 2014 U.S. Chess Championships playoff rounds. We are going to check out the drawing of the colors. Remember, we have now a game 25 plus 5-second increment rapid match between Gata Kamsky and Varuzha Nikolyan and Irina Krush facing off against Tatev Abrahamian. Who will get white first? Let's take it over to Tony Rich at the St. Louis Chess Club.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the playoffs for the 2014 U.S. Championship and 2014 U.S. Women's Championship. I'm here with our 4 competitors. In the U.S. Women's Championship field, we have Tatev Abrahamian, who just secured her place in the second round of the playoffs by a draw against Anna Zatonski in the first round. And we have defending U.S. Women's Champion, Irina Krush. That will be her opponent. On the U.S. Championship side, we have Grandmaster Varuzha Nikolyan, who just defeated Grandmaster Alex Lenderman to secure his place in round 2 of the playoffs. And he'll be facing off against defending champion Gata Kamsky. In order to determine who will play which color to begin, we will have a very scientific method here. One black pawn in one hand, one white pawn in the other, and the players have to guess which one is the white pawn. The time control for these 2 rapid games is game in 25 minutes with a 5-second increment, meaning that each player gains an additional 5 seconds after they complete every move. Joining me is our chief arbiter, Carol Jarecki, who has 1 black pawn and 1 white pawn. And in the U.S. Championship, defending champion Gata Kamsky will pick a pawn, any pawn.
I will. I'm just switching my hands around first. Nobody can see what I'm doing here.
Sneaky.
Okay. Gata? Which one? This one. Okay.
Gata Kamsky will have the black pieces in the first round. And on the Women's Championship side, Grandmaster Irina Krush and defending Women's Champion will choose. Choose wisely.
Okay.
And she chose the white pieces. So in this first round of the second stage of the playoffs, Gata Kamsky will be playing off against Varuzha Nikolyan with the black pieces. And in the Women's Championship, Irina Krush will have the white pieces against Tatev Abrahamian. The games will begin momentarily, so stay tuned.
So Irina Krush getting white in her first game of this playoff match.
How about you? I always felt in a 2-game playoff match I want white in the second game. I kind of like to start with black and know if I have to win as white. So slight advantage to being...
I think it makes I think that makes logical sense, but I'm not sure if in reality it happens that way. Because sometimes the confidence and the momentum with getting a great position with white and being able to make your moves quicker, perhaps, can actually help the white player.
Okay, but in your experience, what would you prefer?
Logically, I prefer the white in the second game, but emotionally, I prefer the white in the first game.
Okay.
So am I an emotional person?
We'll have to
That's
ask.
a good question.
Maurice will be our tiebreaker. In any case, we do know that Irina does have white. Maurice, what's your thoughts?
I think I'd rather have black in the first game myself because it puts so much pressure on my opponent immediately to win with the white pieces. I think that it looks like Gata Kamsky did choose black, in fact. So I think it's a big test for the player with white to have to win the game. They know if they don't win, then they're going to face a raging storm coming at them with the black pieces. But right now, it may not even matter what the personal preference is. I think it's going to be all about good chess, quick chess, intuitive chess, more experience, who cracks under pressure. You see Gata Kamsky there, just kind of went into a meditation pose to get calm, to get ready. Varuzha Nikolyan just came off a very tough, exciting game. Has he cleared his mind and now playing once again for the U.S. title? He played in 2003 against Alexander Shabalov, a game that if he had won, he would have been the U.S. champ. It's now 11 years later, and he's finally found his chance again at 30 years old after having such a clear chance at 19. Who would have guessed that it would have taken him this long to get back a shot at being the champion? And he's going to have to take down a 4-time champion, one of the top players in the world, in Gata Kamsky.
Absolutely. I've always felt, by the way, that Gata was one of the best players in the world at rapid chess. He's really, really impressed me with his skill in this particular discipline. 25 minutes on the clock, 5-second increments, and the players are getting on their game faces.
That's right, and we do have people watching across the street at, actually right next door at Lester's. We appreciate all of you watching from home. We have gotten a lot of comments coming in the hashtag US Chess Champs. Keep them coming. Don't have as much time as usual to go through all of them, but we enjoy all you guys chiming in. I gotta say, I really like Gata's chances, and I think that Kamsky is a heavy favorite. I would put it about 2 to 1, maybe even more.
Right.
Maybe like 70%.
He's been here so much. Experience counts so much in these events and these moments where you've got to control your emotions. Var's flying high, also flying low. After winning 4 games on the trot, it looked like the championship was in his grasp. Sam Shanklin upended that dream, but here he is. He's at the board, and he's got a chance to win the national championship. As Maurice said, first time in 11 years against the much more experienced, world-class renowned player, Gata Kamsky.
Meanwhile, in the ladies, I think that Irina's only a slight favorite. I think I really almost, I would
not
put it
the
at
2 to
50.
1.
Definitely not 2 to 1 for
Right.
me. I mean, other people might disagree though. Maybe she's found her form. You know, it is very different, the dynamic of rapid chess and regular chess. And just because she got into time pressure in regular chess doesn't mean she will in rapid as well. Now, look at this. We have another Nimzo Indian.
A repeat of the game between Anna and Tatiev earlier.
Now, remember, Irina said earlier that she wouldn't actually be watching the game, that she would, of course, her coach would watch the game, but that she wouldn't be watching it. In the regular time control in this tournament, Irina Krush played black against Tatev, and that was an exciting draw. Irina on the black side of Sicilian. So another principled opening here.
Help me out, Jen. We do have the Nimzo Indian, but I haven't caught up to the games on.
The bishop b4, e3 occurred. So this is a
bishop e. Rubinstein.
Rubinstein, just a former main line.
Okay.
Tatev Abrahamian has castled. Bishop d3 on the board.
Yep.
d5, knight f3. So there's also playing with knight g2 as possible. Irina chose a more classical knight f3. c5 occurred. And now, after castles, knight c6,
yep.
cd5, ed5, and d takes c5.
Okay, going for an isolated pawn position.
And this is definitely Irina Krush's bread and butter. She excels in playing with these types of positions.
She loves playing against the isolated queen pawn position, but Tatiev knows that, and she likes having the initiative with black.
Yes, Tatev. She is. She's probably going to get a worse position in this game, but is she going to get ahead in time? Is Irina going to crack under pressure? Because she has been cracking under pressure a lot in this tournament. I mean, she had a dominant position against Nee, which would win her the U.S. Women's Championship. She had a lot of other great opportunities. Alyssa Melikina, she could have won that game.
Exactly. Victoria Nee, and so on and so on. A lot of players have missed their chances in this event.
Now, meanwhile, the opening in Gata Kamsky, Varuzhina Kovian leaves no surprises. We saw Gata Kamsky play the Dutch in a must-win situation. Well, not must-win, but it would be nice if I won situation
right,
against Varuzhina Kovian in the regular time control. Because winning that game would have left the destiny in his own hands. Instead, he got a kind of terrible position.
He did, in fact.
And struggled his way to a draw.
He did indeed.
So instead, he plays his old favorite, the A6 Slav.
Exactly. Let's see how that happened in the game between Var and Gata. D4, D5, C4, C6. Gata back to form with the Slav. At the time he essayed the Dutch, by the way, he felt that he absolutely had to win with black. Knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, a6. Now Var was certainly expecting Gata's choice, played g3, captures on c4, knight e5, immediately going for the recapture of the pawn. b5 is a dangerous option for White after bishop g2, attacking the pawn on c6. That's why we did not see the move b5 by Gata. Instead, after knight g5, I believe he played g6. Is that correct? Are we up to date after the move? No? We still have some
we should talk a little bit about the prize money as well. What are these guys playing for besides the title, which is all important? Now, one funny thing is that first prize will not be split. The winner of the U.S. Championship will get 45K.
Okay.
The winner of the Women's Championship will get 20K.
Okay.
But second and third are split.
Oh, really?
And the reason for that is that a lot of times it's just a tie and there's no playoff at all. So kind of silly to split those on tiebreak.
I see. Okay.
So, you know, it would be complicated to write into the rules that if there's a playoff, they're split. If it's not, there isn't. So basically, what that means is that these games are even higher stakes than you would imagine. Actually, the difference between first and second is going to be 20K
For the
for the
U.S.
Championship.
Championship.
So 45K for the winner, 25K for the loser. So
Okay.
big swing.
Big
In the
swing.
women's, it's going to be 20 compared to 11K.
A $9,000 swing.
That's right. Wow, you're pretty good at math after 12 days.
Normally, I'm
So-
looking at squares. Okay, so after the move G7, G6, Jen, if you could bring me up to date, what moves were played? Did we see Bishop G2 by VAR?
Let me take a quick look at that for you. And yes, we have seen, so after G6, you say?
Yes.
We have knight takes C4 on the board.
Okay.
Bishop to take to G7.
Right.
Bishop G2.
Yep.
Bishop E6.
Bishop E6,
Yes.
touching the knight, a little tickle. Queen D3,
Queen
perhaps?
D3, yes.
Yeah, a very standard move. And then castles?
No, nothing yet.
Nothing yet.
So a little bit on the slower side for a rapid game, I suppose.
So we can
And,
expect castles.
Yes. And Maurice, what do you think about this opening? Who do you like it for?
I think it's a great situation for White, to be sure, in that game because it's rich, it's interesting, and it's something that Varuzhin wants in order to win. I wanted to just pull up this position, however. In this moment here, after bishop to g4, in a very classic position, Krush played the move, knight a4, quickly. Making a point, it's kind of an odd move, bringing a knight over to the side, making sure this trade was not possible on c3, defending this pawn, and thinking about the move a3, tickling this bishop. And it looks like she can win this bishop if she wants to. Queen e7 was played. So if she attacks this bishop, she could get the advantage of the two bishops. Whether or not that would be anything at all in this position, especially considering Black's dynamic possibilities, the fact that Black is well developed, these pieces are still not in the game, may not mean that much. She could also just avoid everything and play a move like b3 and get her bishop to this square. What she does know is this knight will be able to take that pawn and that she won't be doubled on this square. So she played that very fast, very quickly. You've got to think that she had this prepared. She knew this position because she played it quite comfortably, but now this move, Queen e7, has landed on the board, and now she's stopping to think for some time. Maybe this one has surprised her, and she's looking for a way to get an advantage. Guys?
Thank you, Maurice. Interesting move, knight a4, because the standard stuff there is like a3, bishop c5, b4. So a little bit of a wrinkle by Arena in this game, and I would expect her to continue with the move a3. Back to...
And what do you think about that after?
Oh, sure. Let me bring that up on my screen. I also, pardon me, I also like to play against the isolated queen pawn in my career. So I would go with what Maurice was saying, that I would go after this dark square bishop a3, bishop takes c5, knight takes c5, b4, queen takes c5, b4.
Trying to win a free piece there, huh?
Yes.
So you like playing
with the
against the
tempo.
isolated pawn, and you also like the two bishops.
I do. It has a little Chigorin-esque kind of
Although here-
situation where white gets two bishops, black gets two knights, and free play. Here, what I'm looking forward to trying to do is play bishop b2. Black should probably go out of her way to stop this bishop from on b2 from bishop on c1 from developing to d2 with knight c4. I think black will be fine here. One of the things that white likes to do is go king h1 and rook g1, and away
Who do you
we
think
go.
it's easier to play for? Because I feel that maybe the plan for white is a little bit more clear, but at the same time, the knight sometimes leads for easier playing in these types of positions.
Yeah, it's just,
Toss up.
it's a toss-up. It's a battle of chess ideas. I like the bishops, but if the knights get really secured outposts, like in this particular case, the knight on c4 looks really, really
Arena
good.
Krush is really good with two bishops, though. I
Yeah.
feel that I kind of got to like that. Is that a force line for Tatev? Does she have the chance to play, for instance, queen c3, rook b1, and knight e5 immediately?
Yeah, it's kind
But
of like
that's
the
just going
same
to pretty
thing.
much transpose, huh?
Well, you're giving me a choice I may not otherwise have in this particular move order. You're giving me an opportunity to play bishop b2, queen takes d3, bishop takes e5. We get bishops of opposite colors, but again, it's about that isolated pawn position. Hard to say.
Looks kind of pleasant for white.
Yeah, a little bit balanced, but okay. But if you were to play knight e5 immediate, I don't think it really changes matters. I would probably drop back with my bishop, challenging you to take my knight on f3.
And then just capture on f3.
Yeah, well, this is kind of like a dream position for white if she can ever get to her bishop on this long diagonal and dominate from either the d4 square or just putting pressure on this long diagonal.
Right, and we don't come in time with knight e4 because it's just bishop to b2.
Bishop b2. I always have to be careful about that lurking knight fork, but bishop b2 is a tempo. And then this queen, by the way, it might travel over here, and you got to worry about checkmating threats against the g7 pawn. But definitely, I'm thinking a3 was Irina's idea, and having said A, I expect her to follow it with
a3.
a3.
By the way, guys, we should note the stylistic differences between the two players. Tatev Abrahamyan is a very tactical player. Irina Krush doesn't mind going into tactics, but that's not her forte. She's a positional player. She likes to be solid. She likes to shoot from strength. Tatev is wilder. You saw how she handled the crazy position that she got when she had to defend against Anna Zatonsky. She'll find the tactics. She'll be intuitive. She hates defending. She hates being in torturous positions. So she sees that isolated pawn position and thinks, I'm going to have to hold this for 45 moves. She will despise it. She'll start looking for variations to cook up the game, to make it interesting, make it exciting, and that may not be anywhere in the cards in this position because right now she's been attacked. A3, attacking her bishop. What else can she do? She has to take on c5, it looks like. I mean, is there another line? I mean, maybe she's thinking about taking on f3, but the point is, this position has only really one solid move to play that I can see. And if she just does what she needs to do and takes the pawn on c5, then she will have just played with the position and not frittered away several minutes. So it's taking her some time here to decide on what looks like really the only move in the position. And I think it's because her personality leans towards aggression and not towards having to defend.
Exactly, and that's a problem with playing against 1d4. I mean, if you don't like playing the King's Indian and the closest positions that result from that, it's not that easy to get the type of position that Abrahamyan likes.
Which is, you got to go to deep in the chess history books, some of the dustier variations of Blumenfeld Gambit, for example, Benko's Gambit, and mix it up that way. But she doesn't have a position that allows her to express her tactical inclination. And
she just shook her head like she has a bad game. If you gave this a guy to Kamsky, it'd be like, give me the pawn, let's trade. I defend isolated pawn 100 times, it will be draw. Even if you win this pawn, I'll make draw. But she's like agitated right now. Look at her calculating lines that are simply not there and probably will have to take on c5 at the end anyway.
And my goodness, I don't believe she did.
No, she hasn't. Instead, she played bishop to a5.
Wow, that's incredible. What a decision.
You called it, Maurice. She decided that she was going to sacrifice a pawn, keep as many pieces in the position as possible. But boy, what a big decision.
And maybe that's why she's shaking her hand, because she regretted it right after playing it.
I don't know.
She hadn't played it. She was shaking her head before she played it.
Right.
But this move, there's no real attack here. That's a free pawn she just gave. She has gambited a pawn with no real pluses in the position to speak of to avoid a slightly worse endgame. This has to be a bad decision on her part. And I'm sure Irina is thinking, yes, thank you. Now it's time for me to just consolidate the position and you will not have any attack to speak of.
So from draw odds to pawn odds here at the championship.
Something like that. But, you know, before we all jump on her and say that's a horrifying decision, I have seen players, an incredibly resourceful player, Grandmaster Larry Christensen comes to mind, and he didn't mind giving up material. If he got moves like knight e4 and rook on a8 to d8 in the position, he would say to me, hey, your knight is on a4, way out of the game. I got an opportunity to go crazy on the king side. And I won a lot of games with Larry.
I mean, we are
but he
talking-
won a lot of games against me as well. So it's a danger. It's double-edged.
A very interesting point. I mean, remember it is a rapid game, and only 5-second increment. You can't really bank off of that.
No.
So 20 minutes. Now it's 20 minutes for each player. Nobody's arguing whether or not it's a good move, but she made a decision that she thought was practical,
And she's going to have to live with it.
we'll
Absolutely.
see. I mean, it's kind of like, I think that if it was a 10-minute game, we would totally be okay with her decision.
Right.
But 20 makes it feel like, oh, that's a little bit more time.
Yeah, White will find some really good defensive moves and just consolidate her material.
But 20 is not as many minutes as you think it is it? I mean, we saw those minutes fly by in the championship.
Right.
The second time control was just like blink and we're back to playing on the increment. And this is very different because, of course, the increment being 5 seconds instead of 30 seconds. Irina's going to have to really play quickly and make sure that Tatev doesn't get an initiative and cause her to falter. How are we doing in the other game?
Yes. We'll go back to our situation. Neither side has castle. That's a bit of a surprise. After the move Queen D3, Bishop E6, attacking the knight on C4, Queen D3 defending the knight, and then Agata immediately played the move Knight D5. His idea is that he's opening up his bishop on G7 that lies in ambush to the pawn on D4, and he's threatening Knight B4 in this moment when the queen needs to stay on D3 to protect the knight but cannot. Okay, so after Knight D5, what we saw was Knight takes D5, Bishop takes D5, and we're in this position. Hold on. There's a little bit of a problem in the position for Gata. First of all, Bishop takes G2 is a big, and if we play Bishop takes D5, Queen takes D5, there's a double attack against the rook on H1 as well as against the pawn on D4. And I'm just wondering, has Var fallen into a trap early in the opening? He has played the move Bishop takes D5, and now Gata Kamsky to play, and Queen takes D5. Wow. Okay. There, as some form of compensation, there is a B6 square, a weak B6 square. So, for example, after castles, Queen takes D4. Var may be thinking that, okay, I can play Bishop E3 and Knight B6. I've got a threat as well, but that's not what Var wants. We know Vars is an incredibly solid player. He doesn't like sacrificing pawns early like this.
Doesn't this look, I mean, it's not that easy, right? Because if you castle, then we do have this Bishop E3 idea.
Yes, exactly.
And that looks pretty strong. And if you don't castle and you play like Knight D7, then we can play Rook D1 and sack on D7.
Right.
So maybe this is not so bad. Like, so you want to show that after
Sure.
Queen C2, for instance?
Yeah, so Queen takes, Queen back.
The
You
only
were
way
saying
to develop here, yeah.
Knight D7, Rook D1, and what Jen you're suggesting is that, well, maybe after a move like Queen G4, you were thinking.
Queen takes G4 now actually protects the D7 square, but we could still consider playing Rook takes D7. But then a lot of pieces are coming off the board, and you're simply
the end of
you're
the
simply
moment.
ending up
Not
up a pawn if we take on A8.
But not so fast. There is this nice little move, Bishop E3. It's not like the rook is going anywhere for the moment.
So two surprising pawn sacrifices in both of our U.S. Championship playoff games. Akobian sacrificing a pawn, and Tatev Abrahamian as black sacrificing a pawn. So the challengers, are they overexcited from their Armageddon playoffs? Well, we do have Grandmaster Robert Hess paying us a visit from Leicester's, and he's with Maurice Ashley to answer those questions.
With Grandmaster Robert Hess, who's doing commentary over at Leicester's. How those spicy barbecue chicken wings going for you?
I don't think there are barbecue chicken wings today, Maurice, because you asked for them yesterday. They didn't want to bring them out for you.
Oh, they probably ran out of them. Everybody found out about them.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, these games are hot. The last two games we saw were really interesting games. Mistakes, of course, but still, it's rapid chess, so that's what happens. This one, what are your opinion? First of all, what's your opinion of this particular game for both sides?
Yeah, I think out of the opening, Black got the advantage. Not necessarily on position. I mean, I think Black is slightly better here, but I think just because of Kamsky's style, he plays this C6, A6, G6 every time he faces one D4. except a couple of rounds ago when he played VAR and tried to win and got a really bad position. But just the kind of the structure of the position favors Kamsky for sure. And now there's already some clear weaknesses. The pawn d4. If Black picks that up and can keep it, then White might be in some trouble.
Do you think that the compensation that you saw Yaz and Jen analyzing with Queen C, well, after castles, then Queen takes d4, Queen c2, Bishop e3, and Knight b6 might be some comp for White?
Yeah, definitely some compensation. A move like b5, well, it looks kind of strange. There's no light square bishop. So b5 actually attacks the knight. You have to move it immediately. And maybe Black can unravel with starting with a move like this. I think realistically, White has very good chance to regain that pawn. But even if you recapture, a lot of trades will happen and it'll likely fizzle out into a draw. So I think Kamsky's playing no-risk chess right now, which is great for him. Oh, but he took with the pawn on d5, it looks like. But still, I think Black has no complaints. In the opening, absolutely no problem here.
Symmetrical pawn structure, to be sure. Knight coming to c6. It looks like he has a better bishop as well.
Yeah.
It looks like Kamsky won't lose this position. If this game is a draw, do you think for sure Kamsky wins the match?
Yeah, I have to like Kamsky's chance. I mean, the guy was a world rapid champion a couple times. This is a rapid match. He's experienced. He's very strong, and he has to be a bit confident. I mean, he won his last round game against Friedel, a really tough game, by the way. But after that, it's hard to really knock his chances.
All right, let's go to the next game between Irina Krush and Tatev Abrahamian, and a pawn sack right out of the opening with the black pieces. You're shaking your head. You don't like it.
No, I think 2 games in a row, Tatev's got herself in some huge trouble with Black. I mean, her first game's Anna, she was probably just completely lost, except for an incorrect move order on Anna's part. And then Tatev was winning immediately. So some shaky play from Tatev, but here it's really not so clear. It's a dynamic position. I haven't seen how much time each player has, but I mean, I guess...
Well, these times are correct. So 15-20 for White. Looks like Irina Krush starting to think now that she's under some pressure. Clearly, the black pieces are amassing, trying to attack.
Yeah, and it's always a problem with knight on a4, as we saw, in many games this tournament, just from last round with Lenderman against Jacobian. Already the position was in trouble, but the knight got an a4, the bishop on b2. There can be some issues, but White's position is very nice here. And if White doesn't make any, kind of critical mistakes, I think White has good chances to take home the point. I don't like the move that was just played, though, in b5. That weakens the queen side tremendously. So, actually Tatev, she can play well here and definitely survive, I think.
You think that this was a bluff, though, on her part to play like this?
Oh, I don't think she did it on purpose. I think, she got in the position, she knew it a bit, and then, Irina made natural move a3, b4, and she's down a pawn. I think that, yes, there is very good compensation, and I don't think she's too unhappy with her position, but it wasn't some deep preparation of sacrificing a pawn. So, yeah, maybe just nerves.
If she were to draw this game, do you think this would be such a tremendous achievement for her that she will have a chance to win the championship more likely than not with the white pieces?
Yeah, she definitely has a good chance. I mean, if we saw in the tournament, she almost beat Krush with white. She had great winning chances at certain points. First, is there a 30-move draw rule here? What's the deal?
I don't think so. I thought we were seeing any of that.
But no, back to your question. Realistically, if she does hold this and has white in the next game, Irina admittedly is not the best rapid player. She admits it herself. She said, every time I get in some time trouble, she said in her interviews in the past, I get up all these pieces and I blow into them all away. And we've seen that at this event. Yesterday against Victoria, she had a really dominating position, kind of threw it away, and then was almost lost, and was lost at a certain point. Against Melakina, she was winning, in the position, got in time trouble, blundered. So, Tatev is actually a pretty good blitz player, and Irina is too, rapid and blitz player, but as the times dwindle down, you have to favor Tatev's chances. So if she can hold this game and get the white pieces next game, I think she actually might have the better chances between the two.
Well, thanks, Grandmaster Robert Hess. With those insights, we let you go back to Lester's, and you'll find those barbecue chicken wings, man. Bring some over.
If they're there, I'll eat them all before you get them. So.
Indeed. All right, guys, it's on. We're right in the midpoint of this critical championship, these critical championship matches.
Some interesting thoughts there from Grandmaster Robert Hess. Those of you who haven't visited the St. Louis Chess Club in person, you better do it soon. We've got a good excuse for you coming up with the Sinquefield Cup.
Exactly. Oh, well, that will be the event of the year, and certainly the event of the United States.
Oh yeah, although this has been the most exciting championship I've ever seen.
And I played in a lot of them, but I'll agree with you right away.
Well, that means
no question.
even more coming from you.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, I've been in a lot. Wow, this is and we have seen, by the way,
so
this
Dada
recapture.
hasn't taken with the queen. So he perhaps
Quite
thought
surprising.
That compensation was too brutal.
Exactly. He he thought about it for a considerable length of time. He did recapture with the pawn, attacking the knight. The knight jumped back into the center of the board with knight e5, got into play. I'm sure he's very happy about this bishop lurking on this long diagonal. He's a Grunfeld player. He likes such positions. And now he has to decide, does he want to play
knight d7, actually.
knight c6 or knight d7?
He went for d7.
Yeah, it was actually a fairly critical choice. If he had gone for knight c6, then the difference is that after the trade, he'll always have this lever c6, c5 to open up the diagonal. After playing knight to d7...
Well, always if we don't end up occupying the c5 square.
Right. That's the key. I mean, he takes some risks with the move knight c6 because if white is able to control c5, white will be better.
No,
but after knight d7...
He's going for the draw, the solid draw with black, followed by win with white.
Right. Here, black has absolutely nothing to complain about. In fact, black is actually slightly better.
Right, because that bishop on d4, I mean, on d4, wishful thinking.
Bishop
the bishop
on
on g7
g7
just looks prettier than the one on c1.
Exactly.
And it's developed. And in fact, we have a couple more moves. Castles, queen b5. Wait,
Oh,
castles,
pardon me.
queen b5 immediately, since seeing if there's an endgame, maybe we don't even need to castle, right?
So knight d7, knight takes
Knight
d7.
d7, queen takes d7, castles for white.
I see.
Queen b5 now for black. So offering a queen trade with the idea that those double pawns won't be a big deal because the rook on the a8 square will be exerting some nice pressure on a2. So especially with the combination that if you ever play a3, maybe we can play b4 ourselves. So Firouzjan actually declined the invitation to double those pawns and played rook to d1.
I see.
What do you think about that decision? I mean, if queen takes b5, how do you rate that position after pawn takes b5 and now rook d1? I guess rook d1, rook a4 was coming in the position as well. So you're just gonna play e3
I'll
to start
accept
out.
that I'll have a slightly inferior bishop on d2.
Now rook so rook a4. So you remove bishop d2. The idea is that after we play something like rook a4 and rook a8, you're able to play a3 and then b4.
I can play bishop takes b4.
Exactly.
Right.
Bishop takes b4 is no longer on the menu.
Exactly. So here, I thought this would be a draw, frankly. I don't see any reasons that after, for example, a move like bishop c3, that white shouldn't, I mean, black can keep trying to do things, but it's very, very hard. These double pawns are not great in terms of opening up the queen side. So I thought that was a rather interesting decision that Akobian did not double the pawns. Instead, he did play the move rook d1. So I would anticipate after queen takes, rook takes, king d7, we're going to see a similar ending without these double pawns. And again, a very balanced position. I see a lot of...
Even more balanced, right?
Yeah, I see a lot of trades coming down the c-file, if you will.
So probably the next game in this match is going to be more exciting. I'll put my wager on that.
Yes. Yes. This has not moved the hearts and minds of the American public, this one.
No, well, Firouzjan Akobian, is going to now have to defend with black, and that's not going to be pretty if this game does indeed end in a draw.
Exactly.
So Gada Kamsky will kind of take the psychological edge here in this match if he draws that first game with black. Meanwhile, we are going to see some fireworks eventually in this Irina Kretschauer-Brahamian game. Indeed, just a couple of minutes ago, not a couple of minutes ago, but just a few moves ago when Tatev made this decision to play and sacrifice her pawn, that was only 4 moves ago, but already we've got down to 13 minutes. So it was 20 minutes and now we're down to 13 minutes. And that's why I think that it's like we said, we didn't like Tatev's decision because there were 20 minutes on the clock, but suddenly there's 13, and now what do you think? Well,
yeah, I mean, the clock is a vital part of the game, of course. I was just thinking in terms of the position on the board. Tatev played this nice move rook e8, but that nice move rook e8, I think really isn't the best, and I would have jumped with the knight to e4 right away. Robert Hess, when he came on, he didn't like Irina's move b4, b5, but I thought that was an excellent move. After knight a5, queen c2 was played, bishop coming back to B8, we can see that Black is preparing a move like Queen C7 to put pressure on, creating a battery. Irina to play.
Well, actually, Irina has played bishop to d4, perhaps trying to bolster that pawn on c5.
Well, not only that, just putting the bishop in the middle of the board, stopping any kind of dynamic sacrifices based on d5, d4, and preparing to reroute her knight back over here to the king side, and really
so that c5 would then be protected. So you would call this move bishop d4. It's kind of like overprotecting the pawn on c5.
I love that. I like the idea of just getting the bishop in front of the knight, so when we bring our knight back to c3, the bishop on d4
protects that pawn.
Yeah, protects the pawn, but also just blockades actually on the d4 square, as well as attacks the pawn on g7.
So you really like this play by Irina, and she does have about 13 minutes. Tatev's now on move and ticking down to 11. Wow, this game is going to be a really intense. As I said before, the time control is actually shorter than the Armageddon game.
Right. So here, a crucial decision for Tatev. Should she play queen c7 and provoke the move g3? She is, of course, threatening to play bishop takes f3.
So it seems like really the only choice, g3.
Right.
Huh?
So now some light squares over here on the king side weakened. Or does she say, g2, g3 is actually helpful for my opponent. Let me put my knight on e4 right away.
And just perhaps stop your plan of playing knight to c3 as well.
Well, I don't know if it stops the plan of knight c3 so much as just puts the knight on a good square and leaves the the queen could potentially go to h4 instead of committing herself to c7. So,
well, for the moment, you won't be able to play knight c3, right?
Because of knight takes c5, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, is there something?
And then there's no real trickies.
No, because luckily knight takes d5, I have rook takes d5, protecting that knight on c5. So that I kind of like your move knight e4 because of that.
Right.
I mean, although I guess you could play queen c7 in conjunction with knight e4.
Mm-hmm.
You could play both of them.
Exactly.
So and maybe that's what Tatev's considering here. But hey, she has played knight e4.
Yes.
And what do you think, Maurice? How do you think of Tatev's compensation here?
Well, active pieces are active pieces. So me, I'm used to sacking a pawn for compensation. This kind of pawn, I don't really like. I didn't really appreciate that sacrifice. I think it was a little bit too wild. But in a rapid game, anything can happen, especially if you play quickly. I think Irina has handled herself quite well, staying composed. This position, knight to e4, is definitely a strong move. Still, you know that you play the isolated pawn position, but only when you're even in material. So even playing it when you have the even material, for example, this pawn not existing on this square, even that's still hard for Black to prove anything. When it's even in material, down a pawn too, how can this pawn be a bad thing for White? It's kind of hard to believe that would be bad. It has to be a plus. Even with all this activity here, this knight will return to c3 quite soon. You're right, right now it's not possible, but soon enough there's going to be a rook move. Well, now she's played the move knight to b2, so there she goes circulating her knight to this side of the board. That's going to be a problem. And forget, we've been talking about this knight on a4. What about that knight on a5? I mean, it's not much better. So we can almost eliminate these two guys in terms of power, except this one can't get in the game either. And now it definitely can't get in the game. So I think that White's just better here. I like White, even if she's not on the attack yet. I think she's going to consolidate. It's not necessarily by much yet, but I think that this will be a very difficult position for Tatev to prove herself. Guys?
I agree. And knight b2, I thought Irina was going to play rook on a to c1 and then knight c3, but knight b2, preparing to play knight d3, going over to the king side to cover up her, to further bolster her defenses. That looks like a very solid choice by Irina.
Instead of playing queen c7, Tatev's playing a move which looks for longer-term queen potential, and she's played queen e6 with the idea of rerouting the queen to h6 here.
Okay. Well, clearly, Irina had prepared the move knight d3. So let's imagine that she were to play it.
And then Takib continues with her own plan and plays queen to h6.
Right, now...
Again with the threat of bishop takes f3 and inducing g3.
Right, but now because the knight is already on d3, you start to think, can I jump into the center with a move like knight e5 with a double attack against that bishop on g4? If trades, which is what white wants to reduce black's attacking potential, knight comes to c4, a move like f2, f4, and white's still a pawn up, and black's attack on the king side, very hard for black to break through all of these defenses, if you will,